Dana Perino, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Today, President Trump made history with a dramatic shift of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. He forged ahead with his decision to declare Jerusalem Israel's capital, despite objections from Arab, European, and other world leaders, and even the Pope.
We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past. Old challenges demand new approaches. I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering.
President Trump stressed Israel's a sovereign nation with the right to determine its own capital. The president also ordered the State Department to begin the process of moving our embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. In an attempt to ease concerns, Mr. Trump wanted Palestinians to know he still remains fully committed to helping broker a peace deal.
I also want to make one point very clear. This decision is not intended in any way to reflect a departure from our strong commitment to facilitate a lasting peace agreement. We want an agreement that is a great deal for the Israelis and a great deal for the Palestinians. I intend to do everything in my power to help forge such an agreement.
So definitely a historic day. Juan, I thought I'd go to you first because you've covered this issue for over many presidents. The position of the United States now firmly ensconced in the promise that had been made for many years that the United States would make this recognition. And finally, today it happened.
Right. But of course, part of that policy for the longest time, Dana, has been a two-state solution, that we would, in terms of final status with regard to Jerusalem, have that as part of the negotiation, the ongoing negotiation. In the United States, even with people like Bill Clinton, who were all about moving the capital, the embassy, said very clearly that the reason they didn't do it was to preserve the United States as a fair and, well-regarded arbiter on both sides, by the Israelis and the Palestinians. So what we saw today was sort of a preemptive move. Now, you have Jared Kushner supposedly out there trying to make a deal of some kind. We haven't seen much evidence of any progress. But what we have seen now is the president, I think it's almost like a businessman. He says, you know what? Let's just shake it up. Let's put the Palestinians on notice. If you don't like the way things are going, well, then you better get back to the bargaining table.
But he wasn't the only one, Kimberly, because the Crown Prince, well, now King Salman of Saudi Arabia, called Abu Mazen of the Palestinians and said, "This, you need to get on board with this." And the president, I think, recognizes that in their capitals, in these different countries, they have to say what they're going to say for their domestic audiences. But this seems, I think, to be okay with the Saudi Arabians and possibly others for an anti-Iran alliance.
Yes, I think so. And that's really, I think, what is, behind this as well in large measure. But this is something that the president has been considering and contemplating for some time. There has been, tremendous support from the Israeli community to do this and for the president to make this move. And you've seen a very solid friendship and alliance between Netanyahu and President Trump, that they work very well cooperatively. There is a lot of mutual respect there, which I think is a healthy and good thing for the United States going forward. I take him at his word. I believe him when he says that he's going to continue to try to, broker a deal and work this out. But sometimes you need to broker a deal with a show of strength and a show of commitment. And like I said, he's been saying he's going to do it. And now, in fact, he has.
Well, Jerusalem was always like that piece that was going to be the final bargaining chip. But after several decades with nothing ever happening, then maybe this actually is a way to get there. And I didn't hear the president say he was against a two-state solution. So maybe this will actually push people to the table. I don't know. You want to see a picture of a Middle East expert?
A blank slate.
This place is an unsolvable. There you go. Thank you.
Tabla rasa.
It's an unsolvable Rubik's Cube. And we keep talking about this thing as if this is going to upset some kind of peace process in the Middle East. This peace process has been upset in the Middle East since I was a child.
Yep.
If you want a peace process, Palestinians stop killing Jews. That's a start, right? Every time
Well, yeah, their stated objection, their stated objective is the destruction of Israel.
and also, all the Dems were for this. Obama was for it, Hillary was for it, Bill
Yep.
Clinton was for it, Pelosi was for it. Now, when the evil orange Republican is for it, the media is going to say that this is going to cause World War III, World War IV, World War V. It's no different than anything anybody else has said. The most important thing is the change of address cards. Because I didn't do that when I moved, and I don't get any of my cat fancy issues.
You're not going to get any Christmas cards.
No, I'm not. Well, neither are they.
That's true. That's
Like he
true.
sends in.
Jesse, what is your take on the day's news?
Well, he got Schumer and I think Romney and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Ted Cruz to all agree.
Yep.
So I think that's probably a pretty good deal right now. It's very symbolic. We have a great relationship with Israel, our only real partner democracy in the Middle East. And he fulfilled a campaign promise. So I think his supporters are going to be happy about that. I think our NATO allies and our Pacific partners have to look at this and say, this is the President of the United States doing what he said he was going to do. And that has to make them feel more comfortable. And it's vintage Trump. He actually does what he says he's going to do, and then there's a bunch of hysteria, but the hysteria is not always as bad as it seems like it's going to be. And I think he kind of relishes doing things that other presidents have said they're going to do or did or didn't do, whether it's the Keystone Pipeline or cornering North Korea or withdrawing from bad trade deals or treaties or something like that. I think he enjoys this. But you know what? Hamas says they're going to unleash hell. And there's going to be a day of rage. If you're a terrorist, you're always raging if you're a terrorist. So I don't really see that much happening. The United States and Israel will be prepared.
Speaking of an ally, I wanted to get your take on Turkey, because Turkey is a part of NATO, but the president there came out very strongly against it and said there will be fire and fury, basically a take on what President Trump had said about North Korea. And then you had this, I will just read it for you. Abbas said, "These condemned and unacceptable measures are a deliberate undermining of all efforts exerted to achieve peace and represent a declaration of the United States withdrawal from undertaking the role it has played over the past decades in sponsoring the peace process." So it could end up that the Palestinians should have taken the deals that were on the table in the last couple of decades.
Well, I think that's what President Trump must be thinking. Again, you shake it up. But just to go back to what you were saying, Turkey is our ally. You have the Turkish spokesman saying this is a red line for the Muslims around the world, but specifically in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And so, when you think about what's different here, it's not that the thought isn't anything radically shifting from what Democrats and Republicans have said in the past. The difference is that you do it as separate, unilateral action apart from any larger negotiation. And so people are saying, well, what is this signal? What does this mean? This weekend, I was out at the Reagan Library, and they had a defense forum. And so you had people like Leon Panetta, Michelle Flournoy, Mike Pompeo from CIA, even, former Secretary of State Schultz. And what they're saying is, look, Iran and Russia are moving into a power vacuum in the Middle East. You know how you have Russia now, a major ally of Syria and others. And we hear lots of talk from President Trump about, we're going to be more emphatic, we're going to be more involved, but there's nothing on the ground. There's no actual policy. And so he makes this move that I think does please some part of his evangelical base, maybe even some of the Orthodox Jewish community in this country, which votes Republican. But in terms of Israel, I don't know that all Israelis are in support of this, because what they want is more security for their country.
But they were going to be attacked regardless. I do want to bring up one thing that might get Greg going. This is the Pope. Pope Francis.
Now you've
he
done
said,
it.
"I cannot remain silent about my deep concern for the situation that has developed in recent days, and at the same time, I wish to make a heartfelt appeal to ensure that everyone is committed to respecting the status quo of the city in accordance with the relevant resolutions of the United Nations."
I think he should just stay out of it. I can barely control myself when he talks about climate change. So I think I don't want to talk about the Pope.
Did Gutfeld just say the Pope should butt out of the Jerusalem?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
You did that on purpose.
I disavow everything that's been said.
Hey, if the Pope has an opinion, we have a right to respond to that opinion.
Of course.
That's right.
Yeah, but there's a lot of opinion out there. So it's Hamas, it's
also
the Pope.
Russia. Didn't Russia come out for this in April?
The United Nations, the Turks, the Palestinians, the Germans. I mean, gosh.
But don't you think it's possible, Kimberly,
Russia
that after the shock of this announcement,
Sure.
and people have time, if things don't become fire and fury in the Middle East, that perhaps other nations will follow our lead and, in fact, move their embassies to Jerusalem as well?
Yes, I think there always has to be a trailblazer, and President Trump has always been comfortable with doing that, in his life historically and throughout his business, career. I think, again, this was a bold and decisive, it's a historic moment. And, Israel is a sovereign state, and they have every right to be able to decide and choose where their capital is and where they want embassies and stuff to be. So I think the United States is respecting their sovereignty and their decision and their choice and honoring that.
Can I just address
Yes.
one said that there's a power vacuum in the Middle East and Iran's now empowered. I think that's probably because President Obama gave them trillions of dollars and withdrew precipitously from Iraq. So I also think that this spurs the Mideast peace process, whatever that means, Greg, because
Hold it up.
all of everything
never
they did
change.
before by putting this on the table, the Jerusalem issue with everything else in the negotiation hadn't worked. So I think what the president's doing is say, let's try something different,
Yeah.
AKA, in your words, shake it up. And this makes everybody re-engage, makes both stakeholders come back to the table with a little more urgency. And I think that's good.
And I think they're sequencing.
Yeah.
Right? So they make this announcement, and then today somebody on Background from the White House said that they expect within the next 12 to 14 months to have more of a fleshed out plan. So then you actually have some time for it to take hold.
So I think then you have to think of it in terms, Jesse said symbolic. And I think that while Kimberly said this is a historic day, I think of it as symbolic and a political gesture because we're not actually moving the embassy anytime soon. He's going to sign another waiver that says the embassy will remain in Tel Aviv and then say,
For 6 months, right?
every 6 months you keep doing it. He said, or apparently, I think this is what the president's aide said today, according to the news.
It will just take some time.
That
to
it will
make sure.
take years before they can even think about it, Jesse, because they got to build it. They got to find a contractor, land, and all.
But it's
So it's
happening
going to take
like
as
the
long as the wall. Is that what you're saying?
We're in unison. We're a speaker system. Yeah. All right. Times
Like the
Person
wall.
of the Year. Coming up, a big announcement coming from embattled Senator Al Franken. I think they just changed the T's on me. Have some news about Al Franken. Stay tuned. Next.
Today, Time Magazine named the Silence Breakers its Person of the Year as we're seeing more fallout from the massive movement today. 6 women filed a class action lawsuit against Harvey Weinstein and his former companies. They say they're representing hundreds who have been harassed or assaulted by the disgraced movie mogul. Meanwhile, Al Franken, due to make a big announcement tomorrow following growing calls within his own party for him to resign. That call includes party leader Chuck Schumer, who just released a statement calling for Franken to, quote, step down immediately. What do you make of this, Greg?
Well, Franken's got another accusation from a woman who was at his radio show. This happened today. He lunged at her and tried to kiss her, and he's denying that. But I know 2 people that he's personally done this to.
Right.
2 people that I've known for a while. So the idea that this person that is accusing him is creating this incident with easily discernible details. She was at his radio show. She was working for a congressperson, and she was gathering her stuff, and he lunged at her. And he looks at this as some kind of offensive comedic gesture that is his kind of tradition.
That's his shtick.
That's his shtick, I guess. But the thing is, I think he has no idea how many times he's done this. And I think tomorrow is his last day. And I think one of the strategies here is that if he's gone and Moore is elected, then the Democrats can say that only the Republicans have sex pests, that the Democrats purge and the Republicans protect. I think that's going to be their strategy. It's not a dumb one.
Jesse, you know, the big news today is you got 7, I believe now more than 7 Democrats, but it started with 7 Democratic women, including Patty Murray, who's kind of the senior leader among women and Democrats on Capitol Hill, calling for Franken to resign. This is a big shift from the what we've seen in the last week. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was about time. I think the ladies had heard enough. They probably had enough when they saw the picture of him doing that. But the latest allegation where he goes in for the kiss, but the worst part was when she denied him, he said, I'm an entertainer. I'm entitled to do this. And that, I think that sums this whole thing up perfectly, is because power is so intoxicating. And when you continue to get away with it without any consequence, you're emboldened. And when people surrounding you allow you to do it, it emboldens you even more. So that with the Me Too movement, I think we were, kind of joking around in the green room the other day about, when are we going to see a backlash to this? Because people are now talking about this. And, we were talking about when women sometimes make a joke about a man, are they going to be held to the same standard men are held to? Are we now going to see next possibly a woman being accused of sexually harassing a guy?
There already is one on a woman from The Voice.
Oh,
a
really?
contestant, yes.
Right. So
I read too much gossip.
I think this whole thing is going to continue to swirl around, and who knows where it can go, but I think everyone's awake to it right now, and that's a good thing. And as long as you're conscientious of what you're doing and what you're doing is wrong, I think that there's going to be a lot of progress.
So, Kimberly, here's the thing that strikes me. None of these allegations, and I got to check out what Greg was talking about in terms of the most recent one, took place when Franken was a politician, elected official.
Same with this one, he wasn't.
Okay, so this was before he was elected to office.
Right.
And I heard from Democrats, well, this is different than things that have happened with people who are in office or who, like Conyers, was using his office funds to pay off a woman.
To pay off, accusers.
So exactly, what do you think is the logic? Why did all of a sudden all these Democratic women rush on Franken?
Because I think there really is, no tolerance for this kind of behavior. And if he is a public figure and representing the people, and this is somebody, remember, Dana, we were talking about, that was considering even probably a run for president.
There goes my prediction.
I know, he really blew it.
Not really.
No. Anyway, so I think that they want to make a strong stand. You see, like Kamala Harris and others coming out saying, this conduct and behavior cannot be condoned or abided by. So to me, it's not a surprise, especially given the cover of Time, the mood, the focus on these issues right now. It's very, I guess it's resonating in terms of the public, and you've seen it across all different professions. So I think that this is something that wasn't surprising, especially with a new accuser, and I think when you see Schumer as well calling for it. So let's see what happens tomorrow. He's making an announcement.
What do you think of the Time selection, Dana? Me Too, that hashtag, the person of the year?
Well, I think there was a lot. They had a lot of good options for the possibilities because this was such a year of consequence. 2017, I think easily President Trump could have been the one. I think that the King Salman of Saudi Arabia, he won the poll. Who knows how many bots voted, but I think that this movement obviously is a big societal changing event. So I think that made sense. I think for Franken, the only way to make this end is if he resigns for himself, for him and his family. I mean, there might still be more accusers that come out, but he's putting his family through a lot. And now Minnesota, the voters, they deserve better. So if he's going to resign, he might not even wait till tomorrow. I mean, with Chuck Schumer coming out and saying he wants it immediately, might not wait till tomorrow. Because
I don't see how he cannot resign.
The other thing I would just mention, we led with also talking about Harvey Weinstein. That New York Times piece today, byline, 5 different reporters. If you haven't read it, you should, or listen to the daily podcast from the New York Times. What he was making people who work for him do in order to get this done, and they called it the complicity machine. It is worth reading. It is so chilling that someone would even think of that. And then people who brought it up to HR, they got fired. So I think that problem is going to continue in the entertainment industry.
One quick question, then. Apparently a woman is trying to sue President Trump and bring out all of these issues into court. Will that go anywhere?
I don't know. Depends on if she's granted standing anywhere, I suppose.
I think that there could have been another winner or an honorable mention for the person or thing of the year. What had a continuous effect over the year? Like, what object had continuous...
Twitter?
What?
Twitter?
Trump's tweets. Like, Trump's tweets every single day had an impact on people. That would have been an interesting honorable mention, or maybe a share. I don't know.
Was that a person?
No,
What?
but that's
Yes.
Greg's genius. That was an interesting, but it's not a person. Like,
Well, no, but neither.
It's not a thing.
Well,
It's a thing.
this was a hashtag movement
Right.
on Twitter.
no,
right?
but but I think it gained
Then they have
momentum
to
after
put
Weinstein.
President Trump then on the cover with his
They would
Twitter
not do
handle.
that. They would not.
Oh my gosh, here we go. Did the FBI give special treatment to Hillary Clinton in her email investigation? Lawmakers, they want answers.
People who hate President Trump and the FBI were assigned to investigate him while Hillary Clinton was protected time and time again by sympathizers. GOP lawmakers demanding answers and investigation into that today.
I'm proud to be joined by my fellow conservatives in the House to call for an investigation into the FBI's procedures that allowed Hillary Clinton to receive special treatment. We'll also investigate the unprecedented bias against President Trump that exists when we allow people who hate the president to participate in the investigations against him.
It is clear that Hillary Clinton has received break after break after break from the FBI.
If Mueller was doing such a great job on investigating the Russian collusion, why could he have not found the conflict of interest within their own agency?
And this just into Fox. We just learned that not only was FBI agent Peter Strzok involved in the interview of Hillary Clinton, he was also on the team that looked into the thousands of emails which ended up on Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner's laptop. Greg, has this Mueller investigation been completely compromised beyond repair?
I don't know. It seems that Hillary's got more breaks than a pool hall. We'll be right back. I mean, if you want collusion,
Jeez.
I mean,
don't retire on that one.
hey, look,
You've
I'm
had
running
better.
out of things to say about this topic. No, but Hillary really, she treated the FBI the way Bill treated interns. It was a hot tub of special treatment. This is the collusion. This is the collusion. And it's funny because the media has been all about collusion with the Russians, and that's dwindling. For Christmas, they expected a pony, and now all they're going to get is a lump of coal, which is fitting because we've revitalized the coaling industry.
Very nice. I liked how you tied that all
Cole is
together.
back. Dana, as the most fair and balanced person on this table, excluding myself, do you think
Opposite
that
day?
Mueller's and his team's integrity has now clouded this issue so much where whatever he does next, fair-minded people are going to say and have doubts about the motivations?
Fair-minded people?
Yeah.
And we're talking about fair-minded people?
Yeah, it's fair. We're going to go to you by fair-minded correspondent.
I don't think so at this point. I think
yet.
that part of it is that legal issues or legal investigations are usually super locked down and quiet and nobody talks. And so Mueller hasn't given an interview. He doesn't talk to anybody. So basically there's all these allegations swirling around and they can't really defend themselves. Though I think one of the defenses that some people have pointed out is that when he found out about Strzok and his text messages, he was fired from the team. So he's probably irritated that his investigation has been tainted by somebody who did something before he even got there. But then I also think there's this question of can you have personal opinions and still do a professional job in your career? So you said I'm the most fair and balanced person. So like if we were talking about a pro-life issue, could I be fair and balanced on that even though I have a personal point of view? I would like to try to be, but we all have these certain things that we might have texted to somebody. Like if I sent to my husband how I felt about an issue, does that then become part of an investigation? I'm not sure. Here's the other thing though. Chris Wray of the FBI, the new FBI director, he testifies tomorrow. So we might get more clarity on what happened if he happens to know. But also just remember, before he left, Comey said that the FBI is investigating ISIS in all 50 states. So having it's so irritating to me that people did this funny business that had a private email server, that Hillary Clinton did that, that Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner have to be investigated. Like we have serious problems and the FBI needs to be focused on those and not necessarily on people's shenanigans on text.
Okay, well, let me ask you to Dana's point, Juan. If I am a huge Trump supporter, Trump donor, would it be fair for me
What a
as an
stretch.
FBI agent to investigate Hillary Clinton? Could I put that aside?
I hope you could if you were
Do you,
hired.
and you think that I could, and you think that would be fair?
I think
Well,
you could.
I think you could, but I don't
Well,
know.
thank you.
But let me just say,
That came from
FBI
FMC,
agents,
Fair-Minded
and
Correspondent.
especially Strzok, who's greatly respected in the FBI community. Let me just tell you, they have to prove themselves. It's not as if they got there on the basis of their political affiliation or they like or don't like this candidate. This is a situation where I think if you want to impugn people on the basis that they were texting or tweeting, we discussed this yesterday, during the presidential debate and telling he was involved with a woman, he's telling the woman what he thinks, I don't see how that rules out this guy as a good investigator. And hopefully Chris Wray, the FBI director, will make that plain. But the larger point to me is we have real news here about the Deutsche Bank subpoena, right, that you said didn't happen. It's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today.
Wait. The Bloomberg News just retracted their report that said that Trump's financial records were subpoenaed. It was only records that were associated with Trump's
now you're admitting.
associates.
I see. So in other words,
Wait,
this is a legitimate part
with John
of this.
Roberts.
How did you let him do that?
This is a legitimate part of the investigation. They are looking into financial transactions involving Trump and his associates.
No, not Trump.
With the Deutsche
Not
Bank.
Trump.
I see. Yeah.
Just his
Well, let me just say,
associates.
I don't understand why people are so quick to fall for this. You see all these congressmen standing there, all Freedom Caucus guys, the far right wing of the Republican Party, essentially acting like Devin Nunes as stooges for Donald Trump, so that people don't pay attention to the real news, which is the Russia investigation.
That's
Ron Williams making friends, left and not right. Not right. Yeah, okay.
All right.
That was a doozy.
Final thoughts, Kimberly.
Okay, so can I say this on behalf of the phenomenal men and women in the FBI, many of which that I know and have worked with over the years and personally know, that they're fantastic. They work really hard. They take the office and the job that they do very seriously to protect this country. It's always a good thing when you have transparency and illumination on issues like this to be able to see. I think it would only make the FBI stronger and better. And sometimes you need some shakeup at the top to be able to rework the whole dynamic of an organization. And that's what I think we're going to see here. I do call into question, as a former prosecutor, then the credibility of some aspects of this investigation. I certainly want to hear more, because we would hope, that they uphold the oath to be fair and to just be fair arbiters of the facts and let the investigation take them where it's supposed to go, absent and bereft of any kind of, ideological preference.
Okay. President Obama taking some new swipes at President Trump. Greg takes him on next.
Power trip. Last Saturday, Barack Obama was in Paris, or what I like to call the poor man's Cleveland, where he knocked Donald Trump for pulling out of the climate deal. I wonder if he said he grants that at the moment we have a temporary absence of American leadership in the issue.
I grant you that at the moment we have a temporary absence of American leadership on the issue.
He's so predictable. But so's the French audience, who laughed. They also find mimes funny. Fact is, making a decision that bugs the French is not bad leadership. Actually, it's the opposite. Knowing you'll come off as the bad guy among our more sophisticated European peers, and you still do it anyway, that's cool. And let's face it, how many times have we been right versus the French? Trump expressed real leadership here. Remember, even environmentalists admit that the accord sucks. It takes $100 trillion, funds that could wipe out global poverty, hunger, and disease 3 times over, to maybe affect a fraction of a degree over a century. It's murderous, callous virtue signaling. Worse, as Obama jokes, terrorists plot to kill England's prime minister. Terror. Remember when there was an absence of leadership on that? That's the real lesson of 2016, a priority adjustment regarding global threats. Something France could use, too. That country has suffered from so many deadly terror attacks. And yet here they chuckle with the guy who, after one attack, sent them James Taylor. But I guess in Obama's mind, ISIS was always JV and coal was always varsity. So, Dana, it strikes me that President Obama, he's kind of like one of those traveling comedians. When he shows up at a place, he finds out where he's from, and he starts saying nice things about Cleveland or whatever. It's like this. He shows up and he knows he can get a joke.
I love the Browns.
Yes, but he can make a joke about Trump because he knows he's going to get a laugh.
He tries to sort of skirt it so that he doesn't, say President Trump's name so that there wouldn't be, that outrage. I guess that there's probably other ways that he could have done it, but I agree that this is pretty bold to do in pulling out the Paris Accords. And it was similar, like when President Bush pulled out of the Kyoto Protocol, he paid the price for that in diplomacy every step of the way, because the European capitals thought that we were terrible, and
we're stupid and ignorant.
The third world nations wanted more from the president on that, and so I think that President Trump has got us back to the place where now, even in pop culture television, when they're talking about climate change, they have to admit that we have reduced our carbon footprint, and now the refrain is, but we still have to do more.
Jesse, what kills me is that there is this perception that if you're against the Paris Accords, somehow you're less knowledgeable of the Accords, when in fact, the people who are for the Paris Accords are the ones most ignorant because they don't know how much it's going to cost and what it's going to actually affect compared to what you could do with the money elsewhere.
Are you calling Juan ignorant? That's not nice, Scott.
That was what you call a subtweet. It was a subtweet. I was talking about Juan without saying it to Juan.
Those are never a good idea.
Oh, the variables, go to the variables. Listen, it's easy to fight climate change because climate change doesn't fight back. The absence of American leadership was when Obama was leading from behind. He didn't lead on ISIS. Remember, he said they didn't have a strategy. He didn't lead on North Korea. He kicked the can down the road. Didn't lead on Syria. Remember, Putin had to come in and have him save face. And he definitely didn't lead on Russian interference in our election. He sat by and said nothing and only said something after the election. Obama has no credibility here.
You know, Juan, after seeing this performance, do you agree with me that Obama should be pre-impeached? Like we should go back and impeach him.
Post-impeached.
Post-impeached.
Let me just say, you're not as bad as some people on Fox, because somebody said he
As
should,
some people.
Yeah, some people. Somebody said he should be arrested.
No.
That they should bring him back and arrest him.
That was me. That was me in my Kilmeade mask.
I thought it was you and your Dobbs. I thought it was Dobbs, I think. But my point.
He has that mask too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
we love to wear it.
reason.
Yes, it's mask night.
They're like twinning. They sort of start to resemble each other.
I got you. But anyway, it seems to me that, in fact, while he was over there, he was not only talking, with the French, but saying to all the business and activists in Paris that, guess what? This deal has held together despite the United States pulling out. And what does that say? The rest of the world is saying, yeah, we understand.
But we're always
the
right.
need.
They're
No,
wrong.
Oh, I see. No,
when has the world been right and we've been wrong?
Oh, gosh.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
There's
Let me
not a
just tell you
single
something.
example. I'm pointing at a watch and I don't have one on.
But by the way, I think that Al Qaeda and its resurgence
Yes.
is a real current
I
threat.
agree.
And
I
you
agree.
guys go on and on. Hey.
Oh,
so
What do you mean?
Oh, my
We
God.
go on and on about terror. You
No.
terror.
You need to be specific instead of, because when you speak in general terms,
all
you
right.
don't really make sense.
Oh yes,
Oh, that's the
We've
problem.
only been right on this for I don't know how
And here's
long.
the deal.
Go, Kimberly.
So yeah, let's talk about the reality of the situation with job numbers. Oh, by the way, the president's approval numbers up. ISIS getting crushed. Don't worry, Juan. He's getting to Al Qaeda too. So we're gonna have to add that to the
Oh, I'm
list
hopeful.
of Jesse's delight and fascination
But
with
where'd you get that his
accomplishments.
approval numbers are up? I see his
They're-
numbers.
Oh
terrible.
yes, they
We're
are.
out of the 20s into the 30s.
Okay.
That's
you know
up.
what? You're winning. The winning is just too much these days. Win,
Fake polls, Juan.
Northbound, Juan. Northbound.
Okay.
Don't forget the travel ban.
Travel
So many
ban,
things
US
are
Supreme
happening.
Court.
So many
Yes.
things are happening that you
Yes.
can't keep up on.
I know.
Much winning.
Yes.
Too much winning. Yes, that's right.
All right, I guess I should move on now.
Do it.
Kimberly's been waiting all show to break out some food. Hope it's good at
we
the
are gonna-
table. I'm not reading this next part.
Sprinkle
Don't
with
miss it
love.
next.
Don't miss it next. It's time now for Kimberly's Food Court. But wait, there's more. Because my food court today meets Roll It. Kimberly's, dating. You know it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Jesse loves it. You all know the fastest way to my heart is through my stomach, indeed. And apparently, I'm not alone, because a new study conducted by the dating website Zoox has found that love seekers who mentioned food in their dating profile have boosted their odds of making a match by as much as 144%.
Wow.
But not just any food. Slow it down, okay? Guacamole, chocolate, and sushi are among some of the most alluring edibles to mention for those looking for the one. Boy, did I sell that segment.
You did.
Okay, Jesse, do you think
Yes.
this makes sense?
It does, because women like guac. And here's why. It gives them an excuse to eat chips, because then they put the guac on the chip and they feel like it's a healthy snack.
You know that's true, right?
Same thing with sushi. They consider that like low-calorie seafood, but then when you load it up with spicy wasabi mayonnaise, maybe it doesn't accomplish it. And who can't like chocolate? Obviously, that's the dessert.
Okay, but all right, so that's awesome. But do you think it makes men attracted to women?
Yes,
more?
because when men say that, something about sushi, it says that they can afford sushi and that they might take you out to a sushi dinner instead of taking you out to like McDonald's or the Applebee's.
I like McDonald's, though.
Well, you're different, Kimberly. You have
Yes.
great taste in fast food.
Thank you so much. So do you, because we match like 13-year-old
That's
boys
true.
or something.
We have a
to that
terrible
name.
diet.
Well, I mean, looks good, right?
Yep.
So, all right, Dana, what do you think?
Well, I noticed that quinoa and kale are not on the list of things. I've never
Absolutely
written
not.
a dating profile. I didn't know what to say. But I guess I would throw a Hershey Kiss on there.
Yeah,
Double
you've been
whammy.
eating the kisses. I like that. Greg, what do you think? You're
I
a
guess
big
you'd call these
researcher.
dating apps. Anyway,
That was terrifying.
they need a dating app for people who don't like to date. So basically, it's like, hi, I'm Greg. Can I come over to watch TV? Then you move in, you get married, you get fat. Just skip all the dating. Dating's overrated. It
Oh,
really
God.
is. No,
Speak
it's
for
terrible.
yourself.
Dating is terrible.
Oh my God, you terrified me. You just blew out my earpiece. I was so nuts. Okay, Juan, you love food too. You're a foodie. I'd say this end of the table is definitely the foodies.
Well, you know, I don't see how you lose with this, because what do you do if you go on a date? Usually you go out to dinner, right?
Right.
You say, let's go eat something. So the whole thing is, it's very interesting when you're on a date, because it's first date, you know, who's going to pay? And I think women,
That's actually a question.
Obviously.
Who's going to pay?
I know the answer.
woman, obviously.
Wait, see, you go out with a certain type of woman. But
What type would that be, Juan?
But I gotta say, I just think this is a winner, Kimberly.
Yes,
what a
and pasta,
combination!
salad, cheesecake, and burgers.
And chocolate cake and cheese and pasta. But
I gotta-
Kimberly's food court.
I know we have to
combined
go,
with
but this is
Kimberly's
important.
dating.
We're trying to help people.
Number
producer.
4 says salad.
The bottom line is, I think men love it when
Yes.
a woman eats and has a good appetite and appreciates the food and
Indeed.
doesn't like pick and act weird. Just be comfortable with yourself and own it. Love it, and love will find you. All right, one more thing is up next.